Welcome back to eSIMstudios. My name is Taylor Bell. It's a pleasure to have you in here for this Sunday evening, Monday morning, whenever you're watching this. Hope y'all had a really good weekend. Mine was okay, pretty busy as always, but let's get into the content. So, the OnePlus 15R. This is a highly anticipated device. This might be a device you might be eyeing as your potential next flagship, or your number one device, your main device, right? Maybe you have the OnePlus 13R, possibly even the 12R. Well, what's special about this upcoming OnePlus 15R, and if you're not familiar with the R series, it's kind of like and it puts it to shame. It's kind of like Google's A series, right? Like the Pixel 9a, Pixel 7a, or even the FE Fan Edition for Samsung, S24 FE, S23 FE. Except OnePlus puts all the rest to shame, right? Believe me when I say that. Like, they basically spec this thing out, and it's just missing one or two, maybe three minor features that their current flagship has, right? Because obviously there's a price difference, so you can't just spec everything out, have two similar phones, and just price one half price and one full price. So they tinker with some stuff, but as Samsung does with their FE, as Google does with their A series, right? But OnePlus has always done theirs on steroids, basically, right? So the OnePlus 15 was just released and or announced up for sale in the US. We got one. We're gonna have one coming. And we now know that the OnePlus 15R, we got a launch date for the United States, December 17th. So it's coming up really quick. But there's one thing that we didn't really know about this device, right? And that's the CPU, right? It's the heart in the brains, the soul of the device. Now, typically, OnePlus would just put last year's flagship CPU in the device and release it as their current, R series, right? So, if we were expecting this year the Snapdragon 8 Elite CPU in this upcoming OnePlus 15R, while the OnePlus 15 had the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. You're going to have to bear with me. The naming of these Snapdragon CPUs is just, I don't even know the right word to explain it. It's just, hang in there with me. I'm going to break everything down. It's Gen 5s, it's Elites, it's 8 series, it's all sorts of stuff. But you get the gist, right? So typically for the R series, I'm going to repeat it again, they would put last year's flagship CPU into the current R series to try and again bring down the price, because we're expected this 15R to release at the same price as last year's 13R, right? And I think that was like $599, basically $600, I believe. $599, I think, at launch, right? While the current flagship, the 15, I think they started at $899. So there has to be a price difference, right? We got word a couple weeks ago that OnePlus was releasing this new OnePlus 15R with a brand new CPU. Brand new CPU? What's going on here? Well, as time went on, as we get closer to this date where I'm recording right now, Sunday, December the 7th, we heard, and I did a video about this a couple days ago, OnePlus was working hand in hand with Qualcomm Snapdragon developers to develop a sort of special CPU just specifically designed for the OnePlus 15R in mind. Now, they are going to release this chip, this new CPU, on other devices. So it's not just going to be it's not just for the OnePlus 15R, but OnePlus developers did develop this hand in hand with Qualcomm developers. So yes, it will be on other devices, Xiaomi, maybe a couple Redmi phones, Oppo phones. But it's almost like it's custom made. I'm sure it'll work fine on any other device because they do optimize it for each device. but this one was specifically made with the OnePlus 15R in mind. Now, that's great news. That's music to your ears if you're potentially thinking about getting this device. And that CPU is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. Again, naming's weird, but just think of it this way. So the OnePlus 15 has the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, and the OnePlus 15R is going to have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. So the only thing that sets them apart in the naming is the term Elite. So the Elite, and I hope they stick with one naming scheme moving forward, because they're switching this up so much. It makes it hard for even somebody like myself that covers tech on a daily basis to remember all this stuff. So the Elite series of chips are going to be Elite, the flagship chips, meaning the best of the best. And then they're going to remove that Elite for, I don't want to word this wrong, because looking at the benchmark results, and we're about to jump right into it, right? I'm about to show right now, but I don't want to make it sound not elite, and it's certainly not a certainly not a mid-tier chip. It's certainly not a mid-level chip. This is essentially a flagship CPU as well. Wait till you see these numbers. So let me show you what it looks like, and then we'll jump into numbers. So this is the OnePlus 15R, and we'll get into some of the differences. I don't want to do that right now. I want to get into the benchmark results. That's the reason why I'm making this video. But we'll get into the other separating specifications here shortly. But that's what you're getting. It looks very similar to the current OnePlus 15. The most obvious thing is just missing a camera, right? And then here's a couple of other pictures, right? And I think they're going to release it in two colors. You're going to get a black and a green, right? But let's jump in to the CPU results. So it just got benchmarked, and what do you know? Wow, look at those scores. This was just released, and I thought, holy crap, I got to do a video on this. These are really freaking good. And I was like, you know what? I was looking at these numbers, and this is, again, the OnePlus 15R with their, I want to say, custom chip, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. I saw these numbers, and I was like, damn, that looks pretty similar to the S25 Ultra. And remember, they used to put the previous year's flagship chip in their current R series. So it couldn't have numbers that looked like a 2-year-old flagship. It couldn't have numbers that were far off from last year's flagship chips. And I do have the comparisons for benchmark numbers between the OnePlus 13R, last year's mid-range, quote-unquote mid-range phone from OnePlus. I have compared to the OnePlus 15, and also compared to the S25 Ultra, because that's the current flagship standard in the United States at this moment. Until OnePlus starts shipping the OnePlus 15, all we have right now in the US, the best chip, is the Snapdragon 8 Elite. Yes. Jesus Christ. I told y'all my brain's going fried with all these naming, with all this naming stuff. I'm sorry. Let's jump in to the comparisons. But before we do, look at this. They have a single core score of 2846, 2,846 points on the OnePlus 15R GeekBench 6, and a really good multi-core score of 9775, 9,775 points multi-core score. Now, let me show you the comparison in between some of the two or three, right? So look at this. So check this out. So we got the OnePlus 15R, the one that's going to be released, on the very top. We have last year's OnePlus 13R right below it, and on the second line. We got the OnePlus's current flagship, OnePlus 15, on the third line. And then down below, we got the S25 Ultra, right? Now, look at these scores. So, OnePlus 15R, it's in bold text across the top. Now, it's pretty freaking close. Now, it blows away last year's 13R. All right. Now, those, because you see 13 and 15, the 13R, the 15R, again, it's not like they're missing one. Again, if you're out of the loop, OnePlus skipped the 14 number because the number 14 is an unlucky number in China, which it would be like the unlucky number here is 13. You know how some hotels don't have a 13th floor? Well, guess what? Most hotels, most condominiums in China don't have a 14th floor. So that's why they're skipping 14. So there's only like a 1 year difference between the top two. Look at those benchmark scores. Blows away single core, really blows away multi-core score. And then look at it compared to this year's flagship CPU from Qualcomm in the OnePlus 15. So you got a single core score of 2846 on the 15R compared to a single core score of 3536 on the OnePlus 15 and the single core score. So you're going to see a score difference, a performance difference. Obviously, one's flagship and the other is, I want to say, sub flagship, even though it still is. I'm still trying to decide what I should call this chip because it's certainly not mid tier. it's flagship level, right? And then look at the multi-core score. It's actually not that far off. You have a 9775 for the 15R and the multi-core score, and then you have a OnePlus 15 with a 10,595 points in the multi-core score. But let's jump on the bottom line. So let's compare the very top line, the OnePlus 15R, and the very bottom, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra that has the Snapdragon 8 Elite CPU. Now look at those scores. The Snapdragon 8 Elite that's in the S25 Ultra scores 3,100 points compared to the 15R's 2846. I don't think I've ever hit 3,100 points on. In fact, I think my scores on my S25 Ultra have all been around the 2846. Let me go to my GeekBench app. GeekBench. Damn, did I uninstall it? Oh crap, my phone's running out of storage and I uninstalled it yesterday. That sucks. Didn't know I was going to do this video today. I know for sure my S25 Ultra has never gotten close to 3,100 points. In fact, I know for 100% sure that my highest score on the single core score on the S25 Ultra in GeekBench, I don't even know if it hit 3,000 points. I think it was right around 2,800, 2,900. In fact, there's some scores where I remember I hit 2,600 on the single core score. So the OnePlus 15R, in my opinion, in the real world testing, is basically even. The OnePlus 15R CPU is basically even with the S25 Ultra's CPU in single core score. I know that for a fact. Assuming the OnePlus 15R points are correct. I know I have not even hit 3,000 points on the S25 Ultra. Let's move over to multi-core score. So look at this. Multi-core score, again, on the 15R's 9775 compared to S25 Ultra's 9950. Now, I don't think I've reached 9,900 points on the S25 Ultra. I think I was right around, in fact, my scores, and I made videos about it, but I didn't watch the videos before I shot this video, but just from memory, which who knows, but I'm like 90% sure with what I'm saying right here. Those OnePlus 15R scores across the top are basically the scores I got in real world testing with the S25 Ultra. So let's just say the OnePlus 15R's CPU that's coming out on December 17th is essentially the same as performance-wise as the CPU in the S25 Ultra. That's basically the scores I got with my S25 Ultra, right? And yes, the OnePlus 15 has better scores, and it should. It's $300 more, so it should perform better. And it blows away the 13R, right? Now, who's to say that the OnePlus 15 has the best CPU, right? We've all heard that the OnePlus 15 with the new Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 has had overheating problems. Now, I say problems And that's been reported. However, I've had viewers of this channel, and those of y'all out there, thank you. Y'all know who y'all are. You messaged me, numerous people messaged me behind the scenes and were like, yo, I have this device. Not an issue at all. Not an issue at all. It hasn't even gotten warm. So I'm like, phew. And that's kind of helped me go ahead and get the device, right? And also another little tip, if you're considering getting a 15 or a 15, get the black or the purple. Stay away from the sand color, even though it looks nice. The sand colored back is made of fiberglass. It's not made of real glass. The black and the purple is made of real Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the back. And glass dissipates heat faster, easier than fiberglass and or plastic. And that may be one of the reasons why some testers, some YouTubers that got the device early and tested it, that may be the reason why it got hot. Because a lot of the devices that OnePlus sent out were the sandstone color, right? I've seen very few black ones online. Anyways, I would be happy, honestly. I'm not a gamer. However, I do use my CPU the most under heavy loads when I'm editing videos. I would be completely happy, personally, with the OnePlus 15R CPU. If there's just a little bit of a difference in performance, right? But my point is, I think anybody that buys the OnePlus 15R should have zero issues with performance. If it performs just as well as the S25 Ultra, which hasn't given me any problems now, especially with One UI 8, you're going to be very happy with this device. It looks like a no-brainer for $599. Now, what I've heard is Amazon is going to be selling the OnePlus 15R. Best Buy is going to be selling the OnePlus 15R. I just don't know when. Now, the Best Buy and Amazon are also going to be carrying the OnePlus 15, but not at launch. It's probably going to be about a month wait, and then they'll ship them to the other retailers. But OnePlus wants you to buy it from them, right? And that's fair. But you should be able to pick one up at Best Buy if you want. And I think this will be a phenomenal device. Now, let's get into some of the differences. So right off the bat, when I showed you this image, there's only 2 cameras. Now, the OnePlus 15 has been taking some punches for not being the most photogenic phone available. Basically, look, I've seen people say, or I've seen, and we've reviewed the footage, right? We did a whole video on that. I've seen people say it takes some good shots, and look, I'm sure it does. I've some people say it sucks. Most of the time you hear people say it sucks, but that's just easy. Just say, it sucks. That's easy to say that. But when we get ours in, I'm going to do a real world comparison. And look, I'm not that concerned. If you're not I have Pixels if I want to take a picture. I have Samsung devices if I want to record video, right? Like, I'm not worried about the quality. And it's probably comes down to being consistently inconsistent, if that makes sense. Sure, you'll take some shots and they look great, but then you'll have every other shot will look not so great. So it's one of those things where it's just not going to suck all the time. Sure, you can get some good shots from it, but the OnePlus 15R is going to remove one of those cameras and you're going to be left with 2. Now, apparently it has a 50 megapixel sensor and an 8 megapixel ultra wide. Maybe I should look this up before I speak. Let's pull up the specs. Give me 1 second. And I meant to say OnePlus 15R specs, not OnePlus 15. You know what I meant. I got all these numbers running through my head. So here's some, surprisingly, GSM Arena, who I usually go to, doesn't have an official page for the OnePlus 15R specs. I'm assuming they have specs for, let's see, OnePlus Ace 6, because that's the China variant. OnePlus Ace 6 GSM Arena. Let's see, because this is going to be the same phone. So it just has a different name, right? They released the same phone, one in China, one global. One in China's named different, one global's named different, but they have the same specs and they look the same. So here's the specs. This is probably the best way to do it. So You're going to get a 6.8 inch, what is that, a 1080p plus display, 50 megapixel main shooter. You're going to get an 8 megapixel ultra wide. It's going to come with 12 gigs of RAM. And this one says 16 gigs of RAM. I think that's only available in China. I think the ones they're going to sell in the US are going to be 12 gigs of RAM and then up to 512 gigs of storage. I don't think they're going to release the 16 1 terabyte model here. Probably reserved for China. Now look at that battery size. 7,800 milliamp per hour battery. 7,800. And this, remember, this CPU is not going to be as powerful as the 80 Elite Gen 5. The regular Gen 5 is going to be powerful, but it's not going to draw as much power as the Elite series in this Gen 5 chip. So you should get even better battery life with a slightly bigger battery and slightly less powerful CPU. If the OnePlus 15 is doing 2 days easy, this phone right here should get you 3 days of battery life. Imagine that. No, I take a second because this is mind-boggling. I'm charging my freaking S25 Ultra, which is my main device. I'm plugging it in 2 times a day. Now, I'm a heavy user, but plugging it into that's 6 plugins I could eliminate over the span of 3 days. That is insane. And again, I think many of y'all will be completely satisfied with this device. And again, it may not take the best photos, but that does not mean it does not take okay photos, right? Because how many photos are you going to take where you're going to zoom in on every single photo? And look, I do it sometimes, but not on every freaking photo. You're like, I don't know. I mean, look, if I can glance at a picture for a second and be like, yeah, it's pretty good, and then move on, right? And I think this will do that. I think it'll give you, yeah, it looks pretty good. I think that it'll give you looks pretty good pictures for the most part, right? Don't let that be a turnoff. In my opinion, is the only 2 sensors, and then you're thinking, well, shoot, if the OnePlus 15 sucks in camera photos, well, then the OnePlus 15R is really going to suck. I wouldn't look at it that way. Is it going to be absolute best quality right up there with OnePlus 15? Obviously not. But should it get you satisfactory photos? Look, maybe you don't take a lot of photos. I get it. There's a lot of people out there, tons of people like that. If you just take a photo every now and then, this should not be an issue, right? I think this will be a no-brainer for a lot of people. It's a steal. It is a steal at $599. I would choose this over the Pixel 9a or upcoming 10a. I would choose this over the S25 FE. I just would. What other phone at $599 that you could think of that have specifications like this, that can push out as much power as this one? It's hard. It's I don't think you can find many, right? What, a Poco phone? Maybe. And that might be a good comparison. But look, OnePlus is going to give this IP69K dust and water resistance as much as the OnePlus 15. So you're not even skipping out on some of the core features that the OnePlus 15 is getting. You're getting an LTPO AMOLED display. You're getting 165 hertz display. Now, sure, it's only for a few apps, but OnePlus did push out an update to the OnePlus 15. If you're getting a OnePlus 15, you're going to have a day one update. And that day one update means when you unbox it and you turn it on, boom, there's going to be an update available. That fixes, they attempted to fix some overheating issues, some thermal issues. They tweaked it a little bit. And they also added more applications to the list of apps that enable that 165 hertz touch display. Cool. It needs to be done for, I wish it was done for every app that you download, but it's not. But they're expanding it, and that's a good thing, right? If they've already expanded it from day one, it's a good thing. Now you're going to get PWM management. You're going to get HDR10 plus display. It goes up to 1800 nits. Pixel density of 450 ppi. You're getting a crystal shield glass digitizer. Let's see. It'll be Android 16, Color OS, Oxygen OS 16. And let's see here. No SD card slot. Okay. Yeah, we know that. 50 megapixel back sensor, 8 megapixel ultra wide back sensor. You're going to get a 16 megapixel front facing selfie camera. The rear shooters, going back to the rear shooters, are going to shoot 4K at 60, 30, and 120 frames per second. It's going to shoot 1080p at 30, 60, and 120 frames per second. Let's see here. The front-facing video is going to do 1080p at 30 frames per second. So I doubt it's going to do 4K 60 on the front-facing selfie camera. It's one of the downsides. And again, can't always have the same matching specs as your flagship, so you're going to miss out there. But if you don't take a lot of pictures, you know, some people say, screw it, I don't care, you know. So it is what it is, right? If you want 4K 60 frames per second for your front-facing shooter, get the 15. Now, this OnePlus 15R is also going to get its custom Wi-Fi chip. So as you know, the OnePlus 15 has a custom Wi-Fi chip, the G2 Wi-Fi chip, supposed to lock on to that Wi-Fi signal and never ever let go. Really good for gaming. This is going to be a gaming beast, this OnePlus 15R. It's going to be a gaming beast. The 15 already is, and this one, I don't see any different, right? It's going to have Bluetooth 5.4. It's the latest. Let's see. NFC, yes. It's going to have a IR shooter, yes. USB, here's another downgrade. USB Type-C 2.0. The OnePlus 15 has USB Type-C 3.2. So your data transfers between your whatever you connect it to is going to be on the second generation Type-C port. But again, is what it is. Under display ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, 7,800 milliamp per hour battery. Now going to the charging. This OnePlus Ace 6, which is essentially the OnePlus 15R, in China, they issue 120 watt wired charging. Now, here in America, probably going to get 80 watts. Now, remember in the past when you had a OnePlus 13, a OnePlus 12, a OnePlus 11, you could charge it, plug it in, charge it from 0 to 100 in like 26 minutes, right? Well, these new ones, their batteries are freaking ginormous, like 25%, 50% bigger than the last generation. So it's not going to charge it from 0 to 100 in 26 minutes. It's probably going to be like, I don't know. I'll test it when we get ours in. It's probably going to be like 45 minutes. But look how much battery you're charging. 7,800 milliamp per hour battery. That's like 2 batteries. So look, and if it lasts you 3 days, who the freak cares, right? 45 minutes. Oh, I mean, those numbers are insane. I'll take the 45-minute charging if it can last 3 freaking days, right? Let's see. It's going to come in America. It's only going to, it says black, white, and silver on here. But again, that's for the Ace 6 in China. The US version, OnePlus 15R, you're going to get the black and green. And that looks like that's about it. Let's see here. What else? I know I already showed this. Pretty interesting. Is there anything else? Let's go to OnePlus's webpage real quick before we get out of here. Do they have pricing already? Let me show it. Okay, so, and again, I pulled up their website, and again, December 17th, OnePlus 15R. You can subscribe, and I'll put a link down below so you can visit this site. If you subscribe, you receive an extra $30 off or get a chance to win the OnePlus Pad 3 for free. Interesting little deal they have here. I believe I already signed up. I'm just on a different browser. Let's see. They're also releasing that new, what is it? OnePlus Pad Go 2. I guess that's their Go series, is their cheaper version. But let's see here. Anything that we missed, because you potentially might be wanting to get this thing, and I don't blame you. Now, I would definitely get this. If I wasn't getting the OnePlus 15, I would definitely be getting this. This looks like a home run. Again, no phone is perfect. Even your very best phones, the S25 Ultra, has some downsides. Even the iPhone 17 series, the Pro and the Pro Max, has some downsides. There's no such thing as a perfect phone. I wish there was. We're almost in 2026 and we still don't have a perfect phone. And what do I mean by perfect phone? Perfect phone, I mean, is like, I guess it depends on who you ask. But if I could have like a perfect phone, quote unquote, it would be like specced out, that has the best specs in it, best performing CPU that doesn't overheat, super fast charging from 0 to 126 minutes, nice big battery life that lasts at least a day and a half. I would say at least 24 hours of regular usage. Obviously waterproofing. But the main thing is cameras, right? It seems like you can get the OnePlus 15, which is like a Ferrari of Android phones, but it doesn't take the very best pictures, right? Speed and performance, but your pictures are kind of down here. With the S25 Ultra, you kind of levels out, right? You still have good performance, but your pictures are not even, but they're better than the OnePlus 15. But you can go the opposite way. You can go pixel. Pixel is like this. Performance sucks, but the pictures are some of the best in the game, right? So it's like I wish there was a perfect phone where performance and specs were up here and it took the best photos and videos. Shame on you, Google. That could have been you. That could have been the friggin' Pixel. Uh, it is what it is. But that's another video. Not going to get into that. Let's see here. Anything else that I missed? Buds, right? 179 watch. I guess you only really get deals on the buds, the accessories, and the watch if you get the OnePlus 15. Do we have pricing? I don't think we do, but should be. I've heard since the prices are the same for the OnePlus 15, the prices are going to be the same for the OnePlus 15R. So you're looking at I think you can get in the door pre-order sale. I think it's $599. And then I think past the 2 weeks, it might go up to $699. It might, which is probably where it should be at. It has about $700 level performance. So at $599 at $600, it's a pretty good deal. All right. It's a pretty good deal. And now they'll have trade-ins, they'll have all that good stuff. But if that's still, before we get out of here, if that's still a little bit too much or a little bit over your budget, maybe you're only looking to pay $500 instead of $600. Give it about a month. Let Christmas, let the holidays go by, let the new year go by, and then check Swappa. Right? You would probably get one for about $500. Check Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, Mercari. You should be able to find one for about $500, right? Maybe just under if you're looking for a good deal. Every now and then somebody would be trying to sell it just to get some cash, but you should find one for about $500 if you wait about 4 to 6 weeks, I bet. So that's the OnePlus 15R. Phenomenal from what I see. Specs, really good CPU. I'm happy to see the CPU looks great. It looks like a really good all-round device, right? So if you're interested, I'll put links in the description box down below. And again, YouTube's kind of switching it up. I had people ask me, how do you get to the description box? It's easy. Like if you're on YouTube, if you're on your phone, on a desktop, I don't even know what my channel looks like or anything looks like on Android TV. I haven't even watched YouTube on a TV. It's on my phone. It's just on my phone. But if you are on a phone, I think 74% of our viewers are watching from a phone. Click the title. Just simply touch the title. It'll expand a little box below, and then you can touch that box below and it'll expand even more. And that's where I got links to my websites. This shirt that I have, the S25 Ultra shirt, if you want this plus some other cool tech merch and shirts and hats and sweat hoodies, eSIMstudios.store. If you want stock wallpaper, if you want to put the iPhone 17 Pro wallpaper on your S25 Ultra, I got stock wallpaper.app that you can get your favorite stock wallpaper and add it to whatever phone you have. I got a lot of stuff down there. So links to my application, Just Jamaica. So check out the description box. I got a lot of good deals. NordVPN is a sponsor of the channel. A lot of good deals down there. So Appreciate the time. I'm going to get out of here, watch some Chiefs versus Texans, and let me know what you think of the OnePlus 15R. Is it worth it to you? Would you potentially get it? Or answer this for me. Because I'm kind of, and maybe it's just because I got a brain for it. What would be the best comparison for the OnePlus 15R? I mean, like price-wise, in that same price point, around what, around $600, and then maybe let's say $600 to $700 range. What phones? And you're probably gonna have to go outside of the U.S. to find these devices. I'm just not as knowledgeable of global devices like the Oppo line, like the Xiaomi line. What devices are Redmi? What devices are out there that you could compare this to? And maybe we'll dive into that at a later live stream and or video, do some comparisons, because this is certainly a viable device that again, the battery life is insane. I can't thank OnePlus enough for doing this. I think it's it's about time somebody took battery life into their own hands, and OnePlus finally did it. I'm so excited to get at least 2 days battery life on a OnePlus 15, and this should get even better battery life. Again, I think this will hit 3 days. So this needs to be applauded. This needs to be talked about. I can't wait to test it. Gotta go. Peace.